The new gen consoles are about to get a whole hell of a lot more powerful, and yes, that includes the $300 budget banging Xbox Series S. AMD graphics cards are now going to pack in FidelityFX, which is basically like DLSS version 2.0 that we're seeing on Nvidia cards, and guess what has AMD GPUs in them? The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. Let's talk about it. Alrighty guys, share my screen here. I have an article pulled up. Now this will be sourced down there in the description below. I always cite my sources, so if you want to read the article in its entirety, you can. Rich at Review Tech and also Linus at Linus Tech Tips just made a video on this, and it is tremendously huge news. It's massive, ladies. You take one look at it, your jaw hits the floor, you got to scoop it up because it's massive. So AMD has had no such thing as DLSS, which is deep learning, super sampling, and the first iteration of DLSS, I will say, was horrible. And a lot of people don't know that DLSS has gotten substantially better because they still associate it with old school DLSS. They turned it off as they should have and just never revisited it. Now, DLSS 2.0 and all the subsequent patches and updates we've had to DLSS have made it a completely different service, basically a completely different feature built into graphics cards. Now, what DLSS does, or deep learning super sampling, is upscale an image from, say, for example, 1080p to 4K or 4K to 8K, for example. And that image, with current DLSS 2.0, in many situations, will actually look better than a native resolution of 4K or 1440. That's ridiculous. The upscaled version that is basically a 1080p image, and you would think, oh, it gets blown out or washed out or blurry. Because it's happening so quickly in the background, DLSS works in a way to where your GPU is only flexing as if it's handling a 1080p image. However, it's displaying you a more gorgeous 4K image than you would be getting at a native 4K resolution. Now, that is not every situation, but that is most with current DLSS 2.0. Some tech expert down there that works at Best Buy down there in the comment section below is going to drop like, "You're incorrect, sir. DLSS blows out the image and makes it look like a hot, sticky bag of trash on the side of the highway that some guy in an orange jumpsuit picks up." And I would retort that you are indeed incorrect. And this is based on months of journalism and testing from companies like Digital Foundry and PC Magazine, whose entire job is to get unlimited resources to test PC specifications. So indeed, I would retort that you are incorrect in this. But what's important here is that AMD is now coming out with their own version called FidelityFX. Now, the Switch uses an Nvidia GPU, but the PS5, PS4, Xbox Series S and X, they are all on the AMD architecture. They have an AMD APU, which is a GPU and CPU smashed together, if you want to say it like that. Basically, all the components communicate in synchronous time. And what's amazing about this is not only, yeah, cool, the AMD graphics cards are going to have it, that's cool, like Nvidia graphics cards have had DLSS for a hot minute, but since those are in consoles, and AMD has actually made a statement that they plan to integrate this in all GPU platforms, and they even specifically said, including what is in consoles. So that includes the Series S. So for a console that only has 4 teraflops of graphical power, that $300 console is about to get a shitload more powerful. Now, I am a Series S owner and also a PS5 owner, and I'm very excited about this because this means more games are going to be able to implement correct ray tracing, good high-quality texture packs without seeing a major frame rate hit. They're also going to have better success hitting 4K 120, which thus far, there are very few titles that can do that, and they're the very graphically non-demanding titles. It even says it right here in Tech Radar's article. Although both consoles have only just launched, so again, the game developers haven't been able to really optimize for the hardware in these consoles, they can struggle to hit 4K 60 frames in visually demanding titles, and they do. If you look at most games, Valhalla and whatnot, they're 60 frames per second. Some games do offer you an option to go into a performance mode where you prioritize frames per second, your frame rate, over sheer graphical fidelity, the most beautiful graphics, which I think is great. Me being somebody that does a lot of PC gaming and plays a lot of competitive first-person shooters and racing games where smooth, fluid motions on screen can make or break a match, I would definitely prioritize frame rate and be at 1080p or 4K, 1440, vice 4K with ray tracing on and like a frame rate of 30 or 60. But with this new FidelityFX Super Resolution, It means you could see performance gains at 4K resolutions and may even help these consoles to achieve 8K resolutions that both console makers have hinted at. So, you know, when I did my unboxing of the PS5 on this channel, I pointed out right on the box it says 8K, and I said most likely that will not be till the very, very end of the console's life cycle, and most likely not even for gaming. It'll most likely be for streaming digital content, such as like if Netflix starts supporting 8K, or, you know, YouTube, or some kind of multimedia platform, watching 8K movies. 8K gaming is incredibly resource intensive. As they say down here, they were doing testing, Tech Radar here, with an RTX 3090, that's a $1,500 graphics card, with digital learning super sampling on, and 8K gaming is still a long way off from being achievable. I think their frame rates were down there in the like 18 to 20 range. Granted, they were doing like benchmarks that are incredibly resource intensive, but still. But this is a very true statement in this sentence, and also incredibly exciting. FidelityFX Super Res could help eliminate dips in frame rate or allow more games to use ray tracing effects. So I think this is a, where's my button? So I think this is a huge benefit for the consoles running these AMD CPUs, GPUs, or APUs, because they, again, are going to be able to implement ray tracing into more titles, which, by the way, ray tracing looks phenomenal on the titles that I have tested thus far on the PS5. For example, Spider-Man Remastered and the Miles Morales DLC add-on. Technically, that game's not really a standalone game. It's more of a DLC tack-on, but those games that have ray tracing, when I do my full review of that game, which will be in a couple days here, I have been grinding through the story mode. I did take a bunch of in-game screenshots, and the lighting on Parker's face looks insane. There's a couple scenes where you're in a museum. Obviously, it has a very glossy buffed floor, and the lights are bouncing off that onto other things in the room, and it looks incredible. It really does. For lack of a better word, it looks majestic. So the fact that more games are going to be able to pop in ray tracing without seeing a massive frame rate dip, because ray tracing, even on PC, I have a 3080 in my PC, and turning ray tracing on in something like Cyberpunk, you're looking at dropping about 20 to 30 frames per second. But then you turn on DLSS and you're only losing about 5 frames per second, and the image looks just as good. Just about. And some titles, like I had mentioned previously, actually look better than a native 4K image. I know that sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds like I'm pissing on your face and saying it's lemonade, or I'm serving you a crap sandwich and saying it's a Hershey bar, but I'm giving it to you guys straight. I never BS you guys. I'm looking right in your brown eye, right in your pink eye, and telling you the truth here. Like DLSS 2.0 is amazing. It really is. So the fact that AMD's getting on the bandwagon with their own version here, the FidelityFX. I think DLSS is a cooler, like a more easier to say name, and you remember it more. FidelityFX. I don't know. It doesn't roll off my tongue. It doesn't twist on the tongue correctly for me. But anyway, very exciting stuff. And the fact that I think this is the biggest benefit for the Series S, because that console already runs some games at 720p and then upscales it to 1440. You never see a 720p image and you wouldn't even know it's there. But at the game's core, it's running in 720, which is insanely low. Now with DLSS, it's going to be able to do that same upscale. However, it's going to look even prettier. That $300 console does have a ray tracing engine built in on board, and you can support ray tracing right now on the Series S. That little $300 console really is an insane value, because you're getting an SSD in there for lightning fast loading. You can hit 120 frames. Like I was playing Master Chief Collection at 120 frames, 1440 HDR. It looked damn near graphically as good as my Xbox One X did, which has more teraflops. That's saying a lot about the new AMD architecture that's running on these consoles. So the fact that they're going to have this in here, in addition to the current technology, is a huge leap forward for consoles, especially that $300 Series S. So very exciting stuff, guys. So drop in the comment section below, guys. I know there's probably some experts out there that know every pixel that's supposed to be displayed on their monitor. What you think this is going to look like when we get this technology implemented with the next iteration of patches, enabling this feature on the AMD APUs within these consoles. I'm really excited. Hopefully you guys are too, because I think this is a tremendous step forward for the 9th generation consoles. Subscribe for more content like this. I do a lot of news around the gaming community and industry, as well as a lot of tutorials helping you guys get set up streaming and YouTubing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.